Hey guys, it's Emma Vigeling with TYT Politics, live with some breaking news. The GOP healthcare bill just passed the House, 217 to 213. They reached the necessary 216 to pass their bill. I watched it live. There were initially 2 Democrats that voted yes. I'm not sure if that was an error, but they changed their vote. We shall learn who those Democrats maybe were, or if it was an error later. But yes, they hit the necessary 216 to pass the Obamacare replacement bill. After the first version didn't even come to a vote because it was opposed by both the House Freedom Caucus, who are the conservative, extreme, right-wing part of the Republican Party, and the moderates on the Republican side. So this bill will go to the Senate. There is skepticism over it, if it will pass the Senate at all. I know that there's Republicans in the Senate who are going to be, there'll be tough sells on this bill, but it is, a sad day for anyone that was a proponent of health care. The Affordable Care Act is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm in favor of single payer, but it did ensure millions of Americans, and a lot of those Americans will be without health insurance if this bill passes the Senate. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the provisions in this bill and some of the changes from the initial version of the bill. So why they were able to win over the House Freedom Caucus was because they removed financial protections for people with pre-existing conditions. So, of course, the House Freedom Caucus is all about freedom to get screwed by your health insurance company. That change, that new amendment, was basically what the Republicans are selling as loosening regulations so that insurance companies can have the freedom to sell better insurance plans without the constraints of the federal government. But this amendment would do that at the expense of the most popular parts of Obamacare. Rules that protect people with pre-existing health conditions from being discriminated against by health insurers. I will read a little bit more about that. Before Obamacare, insurance companies routinely refused to cover people with health issues or to pay for costs related to those health issues if they did offer coverage. Obamacare required insurers to offer coverage to everyone who could pay and legislated the type of coverage plans must offer. So it protected those people with pre-existing conditions. But it also regulated how much insurers could charge people with health issues by requiring what's known as a community rating. The community rating meant that insurers suddenly had to charge everyone the same price for the same coverage, with the exceptions for smokers who could be charged more and some adjustments by age. So insurers can charge the older buyers up to 3 times what they charge the younger buyers. We'll get to the age differences in this new bill later. But prices can't be based on factors such as a person's sex or how sick they are. Under the GOP plan, states could get a waiver that would allow insurers to set prices based on how healthy a person is. So under this new plan, states' rights are allowed to get a waiver to get rid of or not have to abide by that provision. So the Republicans say, well, golly gee, the states don't have to decline or don't have to ask for the waiver. But what states are going to ask for the waiver? The ones where they want health insurers to come to their state. That means that states are going to have to ask for a waiver if they have major health insurers that do a lot of business in their state. So red states, they'll do that lickety-split, you betcha they will, as Sarah Palin would say. And states like, my home state, New Jersey, will do it, which has, Johnson & Johnson and a lot of other health companies in this state. So now the Republicans are saying that they're going to try to combat some of this with high-risk pools, insurance programs for people with extremely high health care costs. This is a difficult way to get health insurance to people with pre-existing conditions, however. So they're saying these high-risk pools will replace this provision, but it's not really that effective. If history is a guide, the proposed pools would be unlikely to cover people with pre-existing conditions that are less serious and would be very expensive. The money set aside in the bill isn't nearly enough to cover the costs, according to experts on both sides of the aisle. Secondly, the Medicaid provision. This was my favorite part of the Affordable Care Act, the Obamacare bill. So Medicaid would go back to being a program for just really the poor. This is probably, again, the most devastating part of the bill, in my opinion. Although the pre-existing conditions one, the more I think about it, the more sad I'm getting, but I really want to get you guys the facts. Remember when Trump tweeted this in May 2015? I was the first and only potential GOP candidate to state that there will be no cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Huckabee copied me. God, you're, a child. He copied me. He took my idea. Okay, well, that's not true. If this is Trump's bill, this bill has severe cuts to Medicaid. His new proposal cuts Medicaid by $880 billion by 2026, and 14 million people will lose their coverage under Medicaid. That is from the bipartisan Congressional Budget Office. So that's a fact. Obamacare expanded Medicaid to everyone below 138% of the federal poverty line in states that chose to expand the program. Some Republican lawmakers did that, Republican governors also expanded that. I will give them credit for that. So it did cover a lot of people in many states, except for the really deep red ones. 31 states and D.C. opted to expand Medicaid, and more than 11 million people joined Medicaid, the Medicaid rolls, who were previously not eligible. That is the bulk of people who gain insurance coverage under the law. So Bernie Sanders is proposing Medicaid for all. Obamacare expanded Medicaid to 11 million people. That is a lot of people who are covered by Medicaid that if this bill goes through the Senate will not have it anymore. When Trump promised and campaigned on not cutting Medicaid and Medicare, the GOP bill would freeze that program on January 1st, 2020. Of course, when the Democrat would go into office. Potentially, if Trump's a one-term president. Unbelievable. But you know what? They're politically smart for their donors. Thirdly, insurance prices would go down for some, but lower-income people would pay more than they currently do. So this, I believe, was somewhat of a part of the first version of the bill. But according to that same bipartisan analysis by the CBO, yes, premiums could go down for some people under the bill, but who it could go down for, is a little problematic. So premiums would go down significantly for young people, but could go up, and would go up, I believe, for old people. The sickest ones, the ones who need it the most. Also, currently, subsidies available to people who buy on the Obamacare marketplaces are calculated so that lower-income people won't pay more than a set percentage of their income. And subsidies go up if you earn less, live in an area where insurance is more expensive, those are the two, or thirdly, are older. Okay? Under the simpler GOP bill, they always say simpler, which just means, who cares if a bill is simple or not, if it helps you, whatever. You get a subsidy based on your age now, which would begin phasing out for people with an income of $75,000 a year. So simplicity just means, we're just going to screw poorer people. And lastly, insurance plans could cover less. So it could cover fewer ranges of services. Obamacare required the plans to cover many services. Sorry, my camera is a little wonky. Including hospital, maternity, or mental health care. The requirements push up insurance premiums because insurers must cover more services, but they also provide financial protection for consumers. This aspect of the HCA brings up a larger question facing the bill overall, passage in the Senate, and anyway, I digress. So those are, I guess, the three, and I added the coverage at the end, worst parts of this bill. So again, it did pass the House by as razor thin of a margin as could possibly happen. It is, at this point, unlikely to pass the Senate, but this marks a victory that was much needed by Trump and by the Republicans. It is not a victory for the American people. It is not a victory for the elderly. It is not a victory for the poor. And it is a step away from Medicare for All, which Bernie Sanders has been working on proposing in the Senate, and John Conyers has proposed in the House, with now many co-sponsors. Tulsi Gabbard signed on, and just a lot of progressive momentum behind that very topic. Despite there being momentum in the populace, the entire Republican Party is bought. And we can talk about the Democrats being bought off, but the entire Republican Party, they're either ideological nuts or they are bought off. So they don't really care about you having health coverage. They care about freedom for the American people and enriching their big pharma donors and their health insurance donors. That's really what this is about. So I am hopeful that the Senate will not pass this and know that it is political suicide, but we shall see. So that's really what's in this bill, and I will keep you updated on this monumental piece of legislation, and not monumental in a good way. Have a good day, guys, despite what just happened.